Are you scared of releasing your music, thinking that it's not good enough, thinking that it's not worth publishing? You're afraid of criticism, afraid of hitting the publish button. You're sitting on your ideas forever instead of ever finishing them, let alone, releasing them publicly. We've all been there, right? It's a constant overcoming of fears and insecurities when we make our art, when we publish our art, when we release it. And so we're making this episode to give you not only a way out of this, to show you a way out and to show you a solution to this, but we also want to share what happened to us when it comes to overcoming fears, how it helped us build our own studios and careers, how I've built a studio in the middle of nowhere with no major music city anywhere close, with no big music scene here, how I've started a new thing, which is the coaching business, how I've got, to work with bands that I really love. I was afraid every single time I did this, how I published my own music with my band. And then we're also going to share stories from people that we've worked with who have overcome their fears, because it's a real thing that we're all dealing with. And I think it's an important topic to talk about. So this one's going to be packed with anecdotes and stories. And I want to kind of get to what's really behind this fear that's been holding you back so far. So my name is Benedikt Hein. I'm the host of this show. I'm a mixing engineer. I run a studio called Outback Recordings, and I also run the selfrecordingband.com, which is a coaching platform where we help artists from all around the world make better records, recordings from their jam spaces and home studios through our coaching. So welcome to this podcast. If you're new, awesome, good to have you. If you're already a listener, welcome back. And as always, I'm not doing this by myself. I'm doing this with my friend and co-host, Manel Espinosa Berenguer from Spain. Hello, Manel. How are you?
Hello, Benedikt. I'm so ready for the philosophical episode today.
I believe you.
Yeah, so guys, in case you don't know me, I'm Manel Espinosa, and I'm a mixing engineer and music producer from Spain. As I always say, ready to turn a demo into a finished song through a really lovely process. Getting better at my intros.
Yeah, a lovely process. I love that. Yep, it's right though. Good. So, have you ever been afraid before? Yes, you have. No, I like that you said you're ready for the philosophical episode, because I really need your philosophical thoughts and inputs today. This is going to be right in Manel's wheelhouse. He's the philosophical guy here, so I can't wait to have you share your thoughts on this. I want to start this episode with a quote that I really like. I've heard it from multiple people, so I honestly don't even know where the original comes from. But the quote is, "Everything you've ever wanted in life is on the other side of fear." And it's so true. For myself, it's definitely true. Anything major that happened that really made a difference, that made me really happy, that where I took a step forward, was always on the other side of fear. It never just came to me just like that. I always had to overcome an insecurity, something scary, And I've actually made it a habit and kind of a game for myself to try and do something scary every day, even if it's just a small thing, because it's good practice and it always leads to something. Even if it doesn't work out, you'll get some insight, you've learned something. So everything you've ever wanted is on the other side of fear. This is top of mind for you, you said, Manel, before we started this episode. So maybe you want to start sharing why that is top of mind for you right now.
Oh, yeah, basically because I've been dealing with these thoughts in the past weeks. I mean, it's a normal thing for everyone. I would say probably all the time, right? But sometimes we get to periods of time where things happen and this theme is more present. And actually, yesterday I had an artist here and we had an interview, because I like to, record interviews with the artists I work with, and we talked about his music and his career, how he started and all that. And he told me that when he was, he's still young, but when he was younger, like 10 years ago or so, he had a band, and the band got a manager who found a studio and helped them record, I think it was their second album. Not sure if it was the first or second, but doesn't really matter. And the thing is that the final result of that album was so far away from what they envisioned as a band, right? But they didn't really know what to do about it. They didn't really speak up at the time. And now they have an album that they hate, and they don't wanna listen to any anymore. So this is one of those cases where they, of course, they had fear,
Hmm.
but they let that go. They released the album, and it turned out really bad, right? That's I think that's an extreme case, but I think in general terms, the best decision would be to actually do that and learn from the experience. I mean, I don't think you have to get to the point where you're gonna hate your album in a way that you don't want to listen to it anymore. But sometimes when you have doubts, I think you have to get this, or you have to, yeah, you need to take this leap of faith and just go with it, because sometimes we tend to put too much pressure in ourselves when there's no need to. And I'm gonna stop talking about this. And you continue, and then I'll, yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing this. I was actually expecting you to tell your story, which is because it's top of mind, right? But I mean, that's
Oh.
one of the. But that's also great. Like we wanted to
Mm.
share stories and anecdotes from people we work with, but also ourselves. Yeah, I don't have much to add to that. It's actually wild how common it is that people have records out there that they don't love, and then for whatever reason, but they knew it and they still did it, because they were afraid to do what they knew was the right thing. It's like, just to play devil's advocate here. One thing I want to say though is I would much rather have someone release something that maybe is not perfect instead of releasing nothing at all. So, you can always do better the next time. It's important to get the ball rolling. So, of course, you want to have records out there that you're proud of. And if there is a way that would get you there and you're afraid to take it, and that's why you make something inferior, that's not good. But if the options are release the best you can right now, even if it's not perfect, or don't do anything at all, I would always just release something or finish something. So,
On the other hand, similar situation, also like 10 years ago or so, when I was in my band. I played in a band that we played, reggae, ska mixed with pop, that kind of thing. And the main singer, he was the guy leading the band, especially when it comes to composition. Like he would come up with the most of the lyrics and, chord and stuff. I was playing guitar for the band, but he was the main composer, the main songwriter, whatever you want to call it. And he left the band. And we were left without our main source of songwriting. And we were kind of like forced to write more songs. But we didn't have, like, we had to rebuild our system to write songs. And given that the main songwriter was gone, anything that we wrote, like it was different. Like it felt like it wasn't a band anymore, and it was a very like painful process. um, Four of us, we spent lots of days trying to write something that made sense. We would do these songwriting sessions and hating everything we wrote. We actually, it came to the moment to get into the studio, and we even had one song that had no lyrics yet. Like we were so full with doubts that it was, yeah, we were very worried about it. Like, but the producer came in and helped us a lot. And actually, I remember that with his encouragement, we wrote those lyrics of that song on the spot. And yeah, we decided to just go with that and release it. And now, to be honest, I think those songs are great. Probably not better than what it was before, but it is what it is. Like when the singer and main songwriter leaves the band, like it just, you cannot help it. So I think it was the right decision in that moment to like just push through and yeah, and do it.
yeah.
So what I mean is that I think that the frontier between, releasing something that you're gonna hate forever and releasing something that you're not, sure about it in that moment, but you can like after all is it is thin, right? So
Yeah,
it's difficult.
yeah, it is. It's difficult for sure. Yeah. So, which story do I want to start with? I mean, I've been there multiple times in my life. Like, I just realized this week when I was thinking about certain situations. And I just had this realization many times again this year, actually, that you have to overcome your fears all the time if you want anything, basically, also music related. And also, I've seen the artists that we work with go through it as well, like I said, and many of them are getting in their own way out of fear or because of insecurities about themselves. And I know we've talked about some of those stories as well on your side, Manel, where some artists are so insecure about themselves that there's sometimes not much we can do
Yeah.
unless they overcome that. And I want to make this episode also to encourage and inspire you when you're watching this or listening to this. So I really believe no matter your talent level or your skill level, whatever, I think that you have something to share. You are a unique human being. You have something that is special about you and your art, a unique taste and style, an interesting story that's different from everyone else's. And I want you to believe in that because it is a fact. Like if unless you have even if you have a really really boring life, you have something to share, some story, something interesting, and you have a unique perspective on the world and on life. You have, like I said, unique taste and style, and I want you to find the courage to share that with all its imperfections, because that is what's so interesting about art. That is what separates it from AI art or whatever you want to call that, and that's why ultimately we make and consume art, because it's the human connection, and it's those, and it's only interesting if people have the courage to share that and to be willing to go out there, to be bold, to take risks. And so helping artists with that, believing in that and overcoming that and finding the courage to do that is actually one of the most important jobs, or one of the most important aspects in of my job as a coach. So yes, of course, I need to teach the technical stuff and the EQ and compression and whatever. But oftentimes it's that part of it that's more important, because oftentimes people already know what to do, but for some reason they don't do it. And you need to figure out why that is, or they don't fully lean into what is special about them, or they never really think what that actually is, let alone then share it, And so, some examples of myself maybe first before I share stuff from the artists. So when let's say, like, there's so many examples. So I remember when I started this podcast, and this is especially our coaching, I was already a mixing engineer, booked up in the studio, had a good business going, like enjoyed working with my artists. There was nothing wrong about that. But I felt like I wanted to do something different and something more, because I was doing more than just mixing. I was always like helping people make their recordings better before they even hired me. I was always teaching them kind of the same concepts. And I thought, like, well, there's so many people doing it themselves anyways. And then there are the ones that I work with who still need like help with certain things. So why can I not just help more artists in a different way than just the studio services? So that's how the idea of the coaching and everything was born. But then I was obviously afraid to build something new next to the studio. And I didn't know if I will find the time for that, and what if I build all this and all the resources and then nobody wants it? What if I try to teach people, but maybe I'm a bad teacher and they won't get anything from it? Maybe they don't get results. Maybe they put in a lot of work for nothing. Maybe. And then those doubts of like, who am I to teach? I mean, I'm not a Grammy winner, and I don't have a platinum record. And yes, I have a successful studio business, but like I work with all these like small bands that nobody knows, like all these doubts, right? And then I hired a business coach at the time who was specializing in helping creative freelancers like myself, especially in the audio world. And I wanted help building that new part of my business. And I remember he had the same process that we have with the coaching. He would apply for a spot, and then you would do a free call where he asked a lot of good questions, and he was trying to figure out if I was a good fit for it. And then, that was the whole process. And then I could make a decision if I wanted to work with him or not. And I remember on this call, I told him about the situation, what I wanted to do, and all those things. And he just listened patiently. And then I remember him saying, "Dude, you just said I'm afraid 15 times in the last 5 minutes. And that's where I realized, oh, I guess I'm afraid of many things. I guess I'm really scared. And so we talked through all those things, and I overcame one at a time. And now the coaching is one of the most fulfilling things I've ever done in my life. And so this is just one example. And when it comes to music, which is more relatable to you listening to this maybe, with my band, when I first got signed in, what was that, 2011, 2012, something like this, with my old band back then, I remember when we made this record, we made it ourselves. That's where my whole DIY journey kind of, not started, but I was a self-recording band essentially back then. And I remember we made this record, and then we decided to send it out to record labels and try to get someone to manufacture the vinyl for us and all that. And I remember thinking, oh God, now we're going to make all these beautiful packages and like ship them out to the labels, and we come up with this really good idea to pitch our record, and we put so much passion and love into this and so much time and what it took for us to even record this and all that. What if we only get rejected and it was all for nothing? What if like nobody's interested? What if they hate the record? And then even I thought things like, what if they like the record, they release it, and then nobody buys it? What if like we then... Will I feel bad for the label then that they can't sell our records? What if we get bad reviews and like then someone else was like investing in us and then it doesn't work? And it almost made me quit. Although I was really excited about our own record, but I was like, all those worst case scenarios that could have happened, it was overwhelming. And we decided to do it, and it worked out. And even the ones who didn't like it, we got valuable feedback from that. But I remember that I was afraid of being rejected and kind of also afraid of being successful, because that could have negative consequences as well. And it almost like held me back from doing it at all. But yeah, it was one of the most important things we've done for the band, of course. And there's countless situations like that. And not a single time when I overcame a fear like that, it was really bad afterwards. It was always better than before. Even when it didn't work out, I got valuable feedback and I learned something and I knew what to do next time. And every time I thought, I wish I would have done this earlier. This is always the thought, like, I finally overcame the fear. What if I had already done this like 2 years ago? Where would I be now if I had already done this? And then another factor that plays into this is also, if you don't take the next step and you stay where you are right now with your music or whatever, then you will be thinking about, or let's put it like this, if you keep thinking about what happens when you take the step, when you release the song, when you put in the work to finish the song, whatever, for as long as you keep thinking about that and you're thinking about all the bad things that could happen or all the work and the money that it will cost or whatever, you are living through those bad consequences all the time, although they're not yet there. So you are living in a reality that is not really here, and you do that over and over and over again. So you might as well just do it, and then it happens once, and then it's done, right? So I think there's this Mark Twain quote where he says, something like along the lines of, I've experienced many terrible things in life, some of which actually happened. So, that's the thing. We live through these negative consequences and worst case scenarios and all that, although they're not yet here. And if we just do it, it happens once and then it's done. And most of the time, it's not even that bad. So that is something that's on my mind constantly right now, because I'm still putting off things, knowing that if I finally did them, it would be over, and I would be one step further ahead, right? So yeah, that's my philosophical take on all of this.
Yeah, my question for you is this question that I think you ask quite often to artists and coaches. Could we say
coaches,
that word? Yeah. Which is, what would have happened if you had not done what you have done?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you don't know, but
I don't know. But
it's a good question to ask yourself, right? What happens if I don't do this?
Absolutely. And the answer most of the time, honestly, is nothing. You stay exactly where you are. So, and the funny thing is, if you do this, then there's two ways it could play out. One, it works and you get what you wanted anyways. Or two, it doesn't work and you are exactly where you are right now. So that you have nothing to lose. And it's like, I mean, I get it. If there's a risk involved where you put in a lot of work or a lot of money and then that doesn't work out, I get it. Then you have less money than before. You've put in all this work, whatever. However, maybe it's not always about the outcome. Maybe it's about the process too, because at the end of it, we are making art because we want to make art. And most of the people I talk to, they're going to do it anyways in some way, shape, or form. They're going to make music anyways because they love it. They like it. And that's awesome, of course. And so if you take the risk, and you might as well do it right if you're going to do it anyways, and you invest some money, you invest some time, you do something scary to finish that song, to release that song, whatever, and it's not a crazy success, well, but maybe you had a really great time experiencing the entire journey, and you'll have something that you can be proud of, and you have something that will outlive you. You can leave a legacy. Even if nobody listens to it, still you have done something really remarkable. And it's funny to me how a lot of people think about consequences and whether it's worth it or not, and about results when it comes to art and creating their music. While on the other hand, we do so many things in life where we don't think about it like that. So if you go on a vacation, you don't think about the return. You just spend money and take time to go somewhere because you enjoy the experience, and that's awesome. Or you buy expensive clothing or whatever because it makes you feel great wearing it. Or you buy a new phone or some gadget or whatever because you love using it. But so we often make decisions where it's not about a return or a commercial success or outcome or whatever. It's about the process and about the fact that we just love it. And when it comes to our art that is so important to us, we think like, yeah, but if I invest this much money or if I spend that much time, it's not going to be worth it and nobody's going to like it. Well, but you might like it, and you might absolutely enjoy the experience because now you do it right, and the outcome is something that you're proud of. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I think I have a good take on this topic.
Yeah.
Because I think the word process and journey are critical in this case. Because, normally, I mean, not always, but we tend to think, that the song we're working on right now this is my best song. This is like my precious.
Yeah.
And, it's kind of like we are in love with the song, right? And there's a point where you are not anymore in love. If it happens before you release it, maybe you have a problem.
Yeah.
If it's after the release, then I mean it's already released, so what can you do, right? But yeah, the thing is that I think we have to try to switch that mentality, right? Because if you think about it, if the song or whatever you're doing now is the best thing you've done, and then the next song or the next thing is also the best thing, it means the previous one, it wasn't the best thing. So what if instead of thinking that the present we're doing is the best thing, instead of thinking about it like that, we think the next thing is going to be the best thing, so that the best thing, it never happens, because when you are in the next step, you have to keep thinking that it's the next step.
Yeah,
that's
I
my take.
love that. I love that. Yeah, and that's exactly precisely the conversation we had with my band back then in that situation. We said, well, we're not sure if this is good enough. We did it ourselves. It doesn't sound as good as like our favorite records, because at the time we were not I was not yet as good as I'm now, and it was a DIY thing, which is part of why we were afraid. But we said, we definitely know that we gave it our all. We did the best we can with what we have at the moment, and it's not the best ever or the best we can do. It's the best we can do right now given our circumstances and resources, and that's what we have to accept. And it's all we can give at the moment, and so why not put it out there and share it? All of our heart, our message, our emotion, our everything that's important to us is in that record. It's in the artwork. It's in all the thing that we've made so passionately, and everything we had in terms of money we spent on gear, on advice from professionals, because I already discovered the value of coaching and mentoring from others, on like everything in terms of time and money, and everything we had went into this. And is it the best possible? No, but it's the best that we can do right now as a snapshot in time. And hopefully the next one will be even better, and hopefully this never stops. And I always say that, like exactly what you just said, the next one will be better. I still say that to myself now. I have records out there that I've made that are successful, that people love, that sound absolutely as good as my favorite records and all of that. But I hope that in a year from now, I will look back listening to these records and be like, well, I could do better. I hope that this will be the case, because if not, I won't have improved. So I hope this never stops. I hope I'll always be learning and thinking that my past work is not my best work. So this is just part of it.
I think that having that mindset, it helps releasing pressure out of your mind, because like if you are making something thinking that this somehow has to be the best you can give, then then when you finish, you're done. You don't have anything else to do, right? Like if life is a path to nowhere, music is too. Like it's not a different thing.
Yeah, I love that. Life is a path. Oh, sorry. Life is a path to nowhere. Yeah, that's a typical Manel take. I love that. Yeah. Okay, so I said I want to get to actual anecdotes and stories of other people as well. One final thing before I do this is I said also we want to get to what's actually really behind that fear and what's holding us back. And I think what's behind it is we are at the core of it are two things, I think. One is the fear of rejection that we all have. So when it's about releasing, and I think it's two-part thing. One is the fear of releasing music, and one is the fear of like finishing it and putting in the effort because it might not be worth it. But I think underneath it is, what happens if I release it and nobody likes it? What if they hate it? What if nobody listens to it? Those kinds of questions are often underneath it. What if it's not good enough for anything? That kind of question. And people literally say those words to me when I talk to them when they start their journey. Like, I'm afraid my stuff is not good enough. That's why I haven't released it. They tell me, one typical thing I hear all the time is, I've recorded these songs and I've only always uploaded them to SoundCloud, but not the real streaming platforms because I don't think it's good enough for that. And sometimes it would have been good enough. It's not always true what they tell themselves. Or I only have it on my phone because they're so crappy I don't want to share it with anybody. So these kinds of things, it's not good enough, I'm afraid to share it. Now, it might be true that it is not ready to be released yet, whatever that means. But it also sometimes is not true. And I want you to think about what actually happens if that's the case, or what happens when you release it. Let's say you release it and nobody listens to it and you don't get any reaction at all. Well, like I said, hopefully you had a great process, a great time making the record, and you did everything you could, and you have something you're proud of. And yeah, it's sad that nobody sees it, but then also maybe you haven't put anything in, or not enough into promoting it, and that's the other thing. That's another part that is it. The success of a record is not just about how good the record is, not at all. Like, there's many records out there that are fantastic, but nobody knows about them because nobody ever really promoted them. And so this is one thing. It might be good enough, and for other reasons it's not successful. The other thing is, worst case is you have a record out there that will potentially outlive you, that is a legacy that's out there. You've captured it, it's done. Your 80-year-old self will look back and be like, I made a record, that's awesome. And not like, what if I had made this record back then, So this is worth, in and of itself, is worth so much that I don't think it's actually a bad scenario if that happens. So scenario number 2, and also hopefully it was a blast and fun to make it. And then scenario number 2, let's say you release it and then everybody hates it and you get like negative feedback and criticism and whatever. I think that is absolutely awesome, because if it is important enough for people to go out of their way and hate it and give you comments on that and all that, you've done something right, because good art is always polarizing. And if people are hating it, it also means there are people who love it, and that's fine. And, I would much rather put out something that a lot of people hate, knowing that just as many people probably love it, than to put out something that is so boring that nobody really cares about it. And so, I don't think there's really a worst case. I think the worst case is not doing anything and then wondering, would people have liked it? would I have been proud? Like I said, when you're older and you look back, I wish I would have made this record back then, but I never did. I have this collection of songs all my life, but I've never did something with it. What if, those kinds of questions? I don't want to die with those questions. This is true for so many things in life. I have these like imaginary conversations with my 80-year-old self, where I try to imagine what I think when I look back on my life and what are the things that I'll definitely regret. And most often the things I would regret are things that I have not done. There's very little things that I would regret that I have done, but many things I would regret that I haven't done. And so I don't think that whole fear is really justified in many cases. And maybe you're not even aware that you have this fear because it sounds so overly dramatic now, and you might be thinking, what are you talking about? I'm not afraid. Well, maybe you are, because so many people that I talk to are actually afraid, even if they don't say it. And that's where we get into the stories, where I show you examples of how that plays out in the real world. So, any philosophical takes on that, Manel?
No, you just got me deeply thinking about it. Like, I don't have anything to...
Good, that's good. That's good. All right. So, examples. I shared an example of myself, or two examples of myself. The third one, I don't want to get into detail, would be how I started the studio. Same thing. Everybody told me it's crazy to start a studio, in the middle of nowhere, all of that, blah, blah, blah. It was scary as hell. I did it. It succeeded. Anyway, student and artist stories. So I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, so I'm not going to mention their last names. I hope that's okay. But yeah, you'll notice some of them if you go through our... case study episodes that we have out there, and you can hear the conversations with them talking about it themselves. So the first one that comes to mind would be Dewi. We worked with Dewi in the coaching program. He's an artist and a songwriter making rock and pop rock music kind of. And he's a great songwriter, and I loved working with him, with the great conversations we had about music, all that. And he's been recording a lot of songs over the years, and but not really at a high quality, and just recording demos and dabbling with it. And he's been sitting on a mountain of great songs for years. And he always dreamed of making an actual album and actually releasing it and all that. He and a songwriting partner that he had. And he was full of self-doubts, if it's good enough, if he can release it or not, whatever. He never ended up releasing those songs for years, sitting on those songs, doing basically nothing with it, wondering if they're good enough, if he can produce it at a level that is actually worth releasing, and all those things. And then he finally took the leap. He started working with us, and within 1 year of working with us, he finished the entire record. I have to say here, to be honest, within 1 year, he finished the entire record, produced it properly, the entire album, loved the process and the outcome, the improvements, the results, and all of that. Literally said, and there's proof of that. I even have screenshots and all of that, where he said the coaching changed everything, and then, but what really changed everything was him finally doing it. And then the year after, so in 1 year, he finished the entire album that he's been sitting on for years, and then he finally ended up releasing it, and now it's out there, and it's done. Something that he's been sitting on for years out of many different reasons, right? Different kinds of fears and doubts and insecurities and lack of skill and overwhelm and all of that. And at the end of it, he had his record by just doing the first step and finally deciding to really do it. Another story would be Alex. He's one of those who came to me saying that, yeah, I have a SoundCloud, but I don't even upload all of my songs there, and I never release it to real streaming platforms because they're not good enough. And if I want to release something, it has to be perfect. And this kind of perfectionism thing that kept him from releasing anything, really. Again, now he enjoyed the process. He's made big progress. And now he finally releases stuff on actual streaming platforms. And I remember even when he already had songs done, and then it was time to finally hit the publish button, he then was really thinking hard about which distribution service to use. And he ended up going down these rabbit holes and comparing things and delaying the release for different reasons. And I'm sure I hope you're okay with me sharing this, Alex. But looking back at this, I remember, thinking, there are differences, and one service might be more expensive than the other or whatever. But the time that it takes you to ponder, and think about all of that and like going back and forth and all that. What if you just pick one and release it? Because it's not that much of a difference. Just do it, release it. If you don't like it, switch later. But it's one of those situations where we distract ourselves with some seemingly important decision instead of just doing it, and then we start overthinking it, making these crazy comparison charts and whatever instead of just doing it. And I really appreciate you making this chart, by the way, because you shared it with our community and they learned from it as well. I'm just saying, and this is me in many situations in my life where I knew exactly what to do, and instead of doing it, I start going into research mode. And so I put my researcher hat on and then I research for days instead of just doing what I already know I should do, And so this is another example. Now he has songs out on Spotify and all the other platforms. There was Blake. I mentioned him multiple times. They've made a major label record, years ago, with his band, with a big budget and all of that. Then the band took a break for almost 20 years. And he didn't specifically say that he was afraid of anything or whatever, but he was definitely overwhelmed. And I can only imagine, like, after a break like that and those high expectations after having this, big record back then and with the budget and all that, then trying to do the next one yourself and trying to be better than that, that is absolutely fucking scary. And he said, well, I think I can do that. I'm finally taking the step now. It's time, but I know I can't do it on my own. It's really scary to do this. I'm going to need to hire someone to help me, but I want to do it. And they did it. They made the next record. The band, myself, and their fans think it sounds better than their major label record they made back then. And they went down to like 1,500 monthly listeners. And then since they started releasing songs, they went up to, I think it's now 27,000 or something. So it's worth it. Their fans love it. The band grows again. They start playing shows again. And they've managed to make a DIY record that they like more than their previous, major label record. And I think that is... And to me, this is mind-blowing because it's really scary to try and do that, right, on your own. And they could have pushed that decision, they could have put it off for much longer. But at some point they decided, and especially Blake said, no, you know what, let's do it. I need to trust that I can do it and I get help and I'll just do it. There's countless things like that out there. And if I read through the assessments that we do with every single person we work with in the coaching, there's always the same theme. It's always like, Thomas was another example. He said, like, I'm a very shy guy, like sharing my art with other people is not really easy to me. And I think my songs are not always like worth releasing, and they are not. If I put them out there, like, who am I to release songs? And he also said at the same in the same paragraph in this assessment, he also mentioned, I know that it's not the right way to think about it, but that's honestly how I think. It's like that I'm shy to share this, and it's not easy for me, and it might not be worth sharing the music, and so. Oftentimes part of my job is to just encourage people to do it and to take these risks, let alone all the examples that I could mention from mixing where people are oftentimes scared, and myself too, of making bold decisions in a mix. It's oftentimes where, you could do something that works and will sound fine and good, but maybe something wild is much more exciting and it's potentially risky. Maybe nobody likes it. Maybe their fans hate it. But so now we have this decision. We can play it safe and do the same thing that we did on the last record, or we can do something that all the other bands do because we know it works, or we can try something crazy and just take a risk and see if that is going to do something good for the band. And so it's always about overcoming those fears, about doing something scary, and about believing in yourself and having the courage to do whatever the fuck you want with your art. Like, that's you are allowed to do that as an artist. That's what makes art exciting. And it starts with taking the first step and making the decision that I finally want to do it the right way. I finally want to try it, and I want to get the ball rolling. This is always the thing, that taking the first step is the most important and the hardest thing. It's much easier to keep a ball rolling than to get it to move in the first place. So just starting something, making a decision to say, I will finish these songs, I will release these songs, I will give it my all, and then we'll see what happens. Just making that decision and starting is by far the hardest part. Once you've done that, everything else is going to feel like you're rolling it downhill. That's always the case in life. And every time I am overwhelmed with something and I overthink it and I don't do it, I just start. And after the first 5 minutes, it already feels easier. And then it's just keeping it rolling, almost always.
Yeah, for me, I think what you mentioned about The making decisions part of it, I think it's been really important to me because I think you talked about this. I don't know, like maybe a couple of years ago or something. I mean, at the beginning when I started at the self-recording band, and thanks to you talking about this delaying decisions thing, I started to question myself. Like maybe I should take decisions more often, like more like on the spot, like more like based on what I feel now, and then just do it. Because sometimes we do these things like I want to buy this pedal, and I know that's what's going to happen, but I spend days and days researching and reading other opinions or considering other pedals, but I know I'm gonna buy that one. So
Yeah.
for some reason I, just waste time on that. Or what you said about releasing stuff, right? Instead of doing it now, I'll postpone it to tomorrow, make whatever excuse I can find.
Yeah.
So I think, being aware of this, because like even though I know I do it, I keep doing it, right? But I have the skill to recognize it and to sometimes be kind of bold and make the decision and do it and forget about it, right? So yeah, when it comes to releasing and making your own music, I think this is very related to it because on one hand, I think we tend to, you know, treat our songs like the ring from the Lord of the Rings, like it's the most important thing in the world, but you know what? It's not. It's not because tomorrow you're going to make another song and then another song and another song. And so it has to be, of course, it has to be important to some extent, but we cannot give it, give it our everything and just paralyzed because of one song, So sometimes you just have to kick the ball and then the match starts and
Yeah.
you continue kicking the ball again and again, right?
Yeah, yeah,
What an
exactly.
analogy,
Yeah,
Michael.
but yeah, you're right though. Yeah, it's about the starting. Totally. And yeah, you got good at making decisions as well. I remember you making the decision to move from Madrid to Alicante, and we talked about it, and it was scary, and there was lots of like back and forth, and you made pros and cons lists and whatever, and like and this is many people put off a decision like that for years before they decide to move. And for you, you also thought about it, but then eventually you said, you know what, I made the decision and I'm moving. And are you moving? And it's not been that long. You just made the decision.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you
I mean,
and you. I remember when we talked, it was not clear what the outcome would be and what is better. Like there was pros and cons for both. And I remember I also said like, you gotta just decide and then do it. And I think you can be happy with both situations. You just gotta do make a decision and then do it and then see what happens, And
yeah.
you did, and that's
Yeah.
scary.
Of course, you're not going to decide something like that in a couple of hours, right?
Unless you're Adi and you're moving to Barcelona with no
Yeah.
plan at all, like then you maybe decide in a couple of hours.
Yeah. I'm finishing reading that book, by the way.
Yeah, me
This
too.
book, I mean. Um, so the thing is, it took maybe like half a year or something like that from the moment where I started thinking, oh, maybe I'm living in Madrid just for the sake of living in Madrid, but it's not helping me in any way, right? And so I became, yeah, like an observer of, like I would pay more attention to what I was doing, and I think that the world started to send me signs of things. I started to have a lot of gigs in Alicante, so I was traveling there constantly, wasting a lot of time at the end of the day. I was wasting a lot of time traveling on the train,
Yeah,
and it was like, yeah, paying crazy rent in Madrid versus very cheap compared to in my hometown. And these little things kept me like thinking about it. And the thing is that there's no definite answer to this. Like, you just have to do something and see,
Yeah.
right?
And man, life is short. That's the whole thing also that I think more and more about the older I get. And I'm not old, I know, but I feel old sometimes. But when you're 20, you feel like you're invincible and you have so much time to do everything, and it doesn't seem important to make decisions now and all of those things. But now I don't know if that's true for you listening to this. I hope not, but in my case, when you start seeing people as old as you suddenly die or get a bad disease, or the older you get, the more things like that you witness and you see, and then you realize you're not invincible and life is short and you never know if there's another day or another year or whatever. And I just think the things that are really important to us, we just need to do them. There's no time to just put them off. And for me, music related things are always part of that. It's like, I'm so glad that I've always been in a band. I'm glad that I got to play festival shows. I'm glad that I got to know what it's like to have an actual record out there on a record label. I know what it's like to be on tour. All these things, and I'm so grateful that I have this. And there's many more things I want to do in life, and I need to make sure I can get to them, not like in panic mode or whatever, but realizing that life is short and that there's only so much time. And I just can't imagine not making music and not having those experiences and like, yeah. And I know so many people who have like put it off for so long. It might just be time to finally do it. And yeah, this is something I think more and more about. And I didn't think about that at all like 20 years ago, but I do think about it now pretty often, that there's only so much time for the things we really want to do.
I want to say two things, which is that something that I think helped me, now that I think about it, helped me make these kind of decisions, is that I wrote at some point last year, I wrote how I want my life to be in 10 years. So that if you know where your goal is, then I think it's easier to make decisions that get you closer to that goal, right? And so I think that going back to my hometown approaches me or gets me closer to the goal, right? That's important. And then now that you bring you brought this topic up, I think that a pivotal moment in my life was when I had a car crash. I had a car crash like 8 years ago, and I don't know how to say this, but the car went like this.
If you are watching on YouTube right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
How do you call that?
But Manel just described what happened. The car rolled over.
Yeah, that thing.
And he just described that. It's worth going to YouTube for that alone, just to see Manel do this movement a couple times. Anyway, yeah, the car rolled over. Sorry for ruining your important story.
And apparently, I didn't know, but the policeman who told me at that moment said that normally when that happens, something bad happens. Like,
sorry, but yeah,
to someone. But in this case, it didn't happen. Like, no one was hurt or anything, like badly hurt, I mean.
Yeah.
But while I was rolling in the air on the chaos of the scene, my life, all my life, like I saw a film about my life.
Really?
Right?
Like,
yes.
The cliche thing? Yeah.
Yes. And I had these thoughts. I don't know how I could think really fast because that was like maybe 10 seconds. But in those 10 seconds, I saw my whole life, and I had these thoughts like, this can't happen to me because I have lots of things to do. Like, I had music going on with my band and stuff, and I was like, so of course that taught me that you better do whatever you want to do as soon as possible because you never know what's coming. So
I
and
didn't.
I got
I didn't
lucky.
know that.
But yeah,
I didn't know that about you. That's intense. Yeah. Those are the moments that really teach you those lessons for sure.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. You never know. And then also the fear of, and along, like together with this, not just that it could be over any time and there's only so much time, the fear of this judgment and rejection and people not liking our music and it not being good enough and all of that. Why does that matter anyways? Because, as we just said, life is short. It will be eventually, it will be over. And then nobody will care anymore. You won't care. Nobody else will care. And like, this is like almost sounds like a nihilistic sort of worldview, which is, it's not really, but like, if you think about it, 2 or 3 generations from now, nobody will even know that you existed.
yeah.
It's like, who can, like, you can maybe say the names of your grandfather or whatever, but then it stops. Like, nobody knows 3 generations ago, more than that, who those people were. Nobody. Even if you were famous or whatever, even if there's roads named after you, or I don't know, maybe a handful of people remember, but most people won't know that you even existed. And why would you care about what people think about your art right now? Why would that matter? It just doesn't. It just doesn't matter at all. And so you might as well just do what you want. Put it out there, not be afraid, make the art you want, say the things you want, stand for what you believe in, and just enjoy it while you can, and not hold back, and then wonder. And you never know. You could change someone's life. Like, I've listened to so many songs, and I've like so many bands and shows that I've been to changed my life and changed who I am and made it possible that I get to do now what I get to do. And you might be that artist for someone else. And so why not give it a shot? Why not try? Because art is so important. And it's like, there's so many things that I think about there.
Yeah. And like, let's not forget that at the end, you're releasing your music for you, because like, it's something that you wanted to do for whatever reasons you have. Like, for example, in my case, my solo music, all my releases, to be honest, have been phantom releases, like releases that very few people listen to. But at some point, I had someone on Instagram telling me that my song, even that it had, I don't know, whatever, 100 reps or 1,000 reps or whatever, but I had someone telling me that my song helped her go through the loss of his dad at the time. And that's better than a million unknown streams. So that can happen to you.
Wow, that's intense. Absolutely. Also, even just if you only get 100 streams or whatever, which everybody can do, like, it's not like this is everybody who will post anything on Spotify or whatever, you'll get at least like 100 people or something to listen to this. But think about it that way. It sounds tiny and it's like nothing basically on streaming platforms. But think about it that way. If you were invited to play a show tomorrow in front of 100 people, would you do that? Would that sound awesome to you? Probably, for most of us. So why not put something out there that 100 people can enjoy, and potentially one of them says it helps them through a hard time or changes their lives? So that's always the perspective that I have. Same with the podcast. I don't really care if we get, I love when it grows, but if we get like 100 people to listen, 500 people, or like 10,000 people on an episode or an entire podcast, I don't think it's important to have as many as possible, because if, like I said, if 500 people listen to this, compared to massive podcasts, it's nothing. But it's like I get to speak to a room of 500 people, and sometimes it's like thousands on the episodes, and not on YouTube because it's a podcast more than anything. But even on YouTube, sometimes we have that, but it's a podcast. But overall, we've reached hundreds of thousands of people, which is insane for me to think about, And so, anyway, I want to say another side effect of like just putting art out there is the faster learning through more repetitions, through more reps. So if you do it more often, you get more feedback and you can improve every time. That's another thing too. It's the pottery kind of thing we said last time, this analogy of this story where, the pottery class, some students were told to make the best pot possible in one try basically. And so they tried a year and made one amazing pot, and the other ones had the assignment of just making one every week or something, or every day, or I don't know. And of course, the ones who had the assignment to do many, they ended up making the better ones at the end compared to the ones just working on that one pot. And so, there's been studies about this, and there's one with photography as well. It doesn't matter. But the fact is, every time we work with artists, the ones who work on one song for a long time make slower progress compared to the ones who just constantly release things, overcome their fear, get better, get feedback, do it again, rinse and repeat. It's almost always the same. So that I want to say that. And then I want to touch on two things really quickly before we wrap this up, and that is overwhelm and anxiety. So overwhelm is, and these are the reasons that hold people back from starting, and part of the whole I'm afraid conversation. So it could be that you're actually just overwhelmed, and this is paralyzing. It just leads you to not doing anything at all. You just stall. You don't do anything because you're overwhelmed. And it happens when you have too many options and no clear next steps. So maybe it's not really so much like a fear as it is like overwhelm, when you know that there are many different ways you could do it and you don't know which one to do. And it's like conflicting information. There's maybe you already have too much information and no clear next step. So you don't need more info in this case. You just need the right info at the right time and someone to hold you accountable, and then you just need to take action. So this is when you're overwhelmed. On the other hand, anxiety is a result of not seeing any options. This is when you are afraid and you just need someone to show you that there is a way, and someone in your corner who cheers you on and makes you believe in yourself. So when we have a problem or we have a goal, we want to do something, but we don't see a realistic option that will get us there. There's no way out of our situation seemingly, and that's when we get anxiety, and we don't think that there's a way. We're lost, basically. In this case, you need a way, a process, proof that it can be done, believe in yourself, someone who shows you how to do it, and all those things. And overwhelm, on the other hand, is you have too many paths, too many options, and you can't choose which one, and then you stall and don't do anything at all. But for both of those things, there's a solution, and that is to start. And if you cannot start because of the overwhelm or the anxiety, ask someone to help you. And this is not going to be a pitch for our coaching. I hope by now you know what we do here, and you can absolutely go to theselfrecordingband.com and apply for coaching, and this is exactly what we help people with, so I don't want to go into that. I hope you know that this is out there, and if that is pretty much the best first step you can do. But I don't want to even pitch that. I want to say starting can mean hire a studio and produce one single for real with a professional, and just let someone do the entire thing for you, walk you through the experience. Just do one song. Hire or reach out to a songwriter. If you can't hire anyone at the moment, maybe you have a friend who's really good at something. Maybe you can do a deal. And I'm not saying take advantage of your friends. I think you should pay your friends. But maybe you can collaborate with someone, an accountability partner, someone who do it with you, who like shows you that there's a way, even if you don't know how to do it. Just reach out to someone. Don't try to figure it out on your own if you're in this situation. Maybe make a deal with someone, make a bet, make something to hold you accountable, that makes sure you have to release or finish this song. Make it a game. Put something on the line. Do something with someone else that leads you to taking the first step, because you will realize if you just take the first step, which is usually asking someone to help you, you'll realize that it's actually much more doable than you think it is. It's almost always true. Whenever I feel stuck and I don't know what to do or how to solve it, or if there's a way, I either hire someone, I reach out to someone, I have a conversation with someone. I always go to someone else, get an outside perspective, and all of a sudden I'm like, yeah, I actually can do that. And I also know what to do and how to do it. And then maybe I need to go a step further and really hire someone to make sure I'll do it. But it always starts by just talking to someone first. And so don't think you can just solve this on your own. It most of the time doesn't work. And so this is something I wanted to put out there. And remember that art is not about playing it safe. It is, or about pleasing anyone. It doesn't matter if people like you or your music, as much as we would all love that. But you need confidence. You need to take risks. It's not easy to share your emotions and thoughts with the world or with anyone, really. That's just part of it, and we have to acknowledge that and just do it anyways. And it's rewarding either way. So just try and forget those "it's not good enough" thoughts, and it's not ready yet, it's not whatever. And if you can't overcome that yourself, go and get help from someone who can help you with that. That's all I really have here. So
Yeah, life is a path with that leads to nowhere.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, all right. So thank you for listening. Hope this was inspiring and encouraging. If you're ready to take that next step to take the first step to finally start doing that, if you make the decision, I want to finish the songs, I want to know what's involved, how does this all work? Go to the selfrecordingband.com, fill out the application form, talk to us on a call, and we'll see if there's a way forward for you. I'm pretty sure there is. Even if it's not our coaching, there's always some way. I'd love to hear from you. Do that, and we'll talk to you next week.
Yes, and also you can send us a message if you have any philosophical problem
Yeah.
you need to solve.
Anytime. Yeah. Thank you. Right.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Thanks for listening.